Hi guys, it's Nathan from Headbangers. Today we're counting down our top albums of the year. This one was a really hard one because 2022 has actually been a really good year for metal albums. Um, so we've managed to do it and we've managed to cut it down to about 10 each. So we've got 20 albums altogether for you to pick from. So we hope you really enjoy it. If you do like the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. We also have a Patreon if you want to head over there and give us a bit more support. And also, don't forget to leave us a rating on social media because that really does help us out a lot. It helps us get pushed during the algorithm to get discovered a little bit more. But without further ado, we've got a few messages from our previous interviewees regarding their favorite albums of the year.
Hey, my name is Jared Smith of the band Heliocentric. My album of the year is Bilo 4 by David Maximicic.
Yo, it's Brad from Expressionless. My album of the year this year was released by a band called Sector. They put out the album, The Chicago Sector, which I definitely recommend if you like your hardcore tunes.
Hi guys, it's Chris from Drowning Sulfur here, and my favorite album of 2022 is Modern Primitive by Septic Flesh.
Yo, what's up? This is John from Noise Dosage Media, and my favorite album of the year is Molders Engrossed in Decay.
Yo, this is Sean from Ingested. Shout out to Headbangers Podcast. My album of the year is Fit for an Autopsy. Oh, what the future holds.
Welcome back to the Headbangers Podcast, where your host Nathan and Brad. Here we are with a long-awaited album of the year list. Now, this is a fucking hard one to do, to be honest. Like, you know, out of all the years of albums coming out, I'd say this has been a very strong year across the board of all metal genres. So actually just compiling this list took me a long time. I've had to spend these last 3 weeks listening to all the albums again, and you'd always find one that you completely forgot about, and you're like, actually, that one slaps. And someone's like a better on a revisit as well. Like, you know, you might not feel it the first time, the second one you do. We'll also give out at the end some shout outs to albums that didn't make it, but were very close, because I know I've got a few. Nathan, how are you feeling about the top of the year list?
You didn't tell me there were going to be shout outs.
It's just a wing, mate. You don't have to throw any shout outs, but I'm going to throw some shout outs.
You didn't tell me there were going to be shout outs, bro.
Little surprise. Christmas treat.
I'll improvise. But no, it was actually really hard to make a list, if I'm honest, mainly because there was just so much. You know, when you're spoilt for choice, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't even remember what albums I've actually listened to this year to start off with, because it's like, oh, there's just so many.
Yeah, it's
interesting
doing it's interesting doing it at the top of the year list, because you'll go back to say January or something, and you'll go, oh, this really was a long time ago, because you remember listening to the album, what you were doing at the time. I remember I went back and listened to Fit for an Autopsy, for example, and I was like, that was the start of the year, and I remember taking trains to Manchester for what I was working on at the time. And I was like, it kind of puts things into perspective, because it's every album is a different segment of the year for you.
Yeah, what was weird for me was listening it back, listening to some of them back, but not only that, I had a bit of a Mandela effect. I was sure, right, that the Archspire fucking album came out this year. But it didn't. It came out last year. Came out last year, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put the Archspire on there, because out of, I'm not a massive fan of Tech Death, but out of everything that is Tech Death, I like that the most. So I was like, oh right, I'll add that to the list. And I checked it on Spotify. I was like, came out in 2021, and I thought back to why I thought that. It's because when we were driving back from the cabin this year, when we went away, you were playing Archspire. I just thought,
yeah,
this came out this year, didn't it?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
It came out a month before last year.
Yeah, because I'll sort of confuse myself as well, because I'll go down my songs, and usually when I really like an album a lot, I'll add it to my likes. But sometimes I'll revisit an album, I realize that I didn't add it to my likes, and then I'll put it on there. So, oh, this came out this year, and I'll check the album date. I'm like, oh, I see. I just came back and revisited that one.
No, I had quite a few moments like that while I was going through. I'm like, this is going to be on the list. I'm like, oh, this came out in 2021. But that being said, there's been a lot of fucking great albums this year.
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone sort of brought their A game, so I'm really happy to get it started and just count it down, really.
Yeah, and just before we do that, so just a little format for this. It's in no particular order, but we'll give you our favorite ones at the end, just because it's too hard to rank them. It's just too hard. We
Also, I
tried.
think the ranking thing is kind of bullshit because it's so subjective. It's
Yeah,
like
and
it's like, and I'll rate that a 5 out of 5. But what does the 5 out of 5 mean to you?
exactly. And to be honest, like looking down our list, like there's so many different genres and subgenres of metal and hardcore that like you might be in the mood to listen to one of these one day and another one another day. Like, I think we'll have you covered here because whatever you like in the respective genres of heavy music, I think you'll find something in there for you. So we hope you enjoy it. And Nathan, I'm going to give you the privilege of picking first. So what's
So,
one of on your list?
so my number 10 slot is Fugitive Maniac. Because it's fucking slaps. Reminds me of like the sort of thrash hardcore crossover stuff, and it's the guitarist from Power Trip's new band. And honestly, I am so surprised I haven't seen more people talking about this album like this year because it's a great album. Well, it's technically an EP. It's a great EP, great release, and given that obviously the prowess of the guitarist. Like I thought this would be one of those things that gets instantly picked up. And it got really good response, but I didn't see as many people talking about it as I felt should have because it was great. It's got all your classic sort of hardcore and thrash elements in there. There's the last song. I'm gonna have to pull up the last song's name really quickly because it was like a bit of a fucking it kind of flipped it on its head a little bit because it was like straight out. It sounded like Entombed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the vocals anyway did. The last song is probably is my favorite, but yeah, raise raise the dead. The Raise the Dead vocally and kind of instrumentally sounds like Entombed, and it's like the old sort of style with Entombed as well. And that was a really nice sort of listening experience. But the entire album is just, like very groovy, very like it flows very well. And
Mhm.
nothing feels out of place. Everything's really well put together. So yeah, I really enjoyed that album, and I'm surprised there were no one else. Well, not no one else, but I'm surprised there want more heads sort of like speaking about it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm a testament to that as well. Like, this completely went over my radar. I don't know why, but yeah, it's surprising as well, given that obviously Riley passed not too long ago. So, like, any sort of power trip flavors that you can get, you would have thought people would be chasing that straight away. So, is it like, does it sound like power trip? You said it's got the freshy hardcore roots, and that's pretty much power trip, isn't it? So,
I think ultimately you can tell a member of Power Trip is in the band, but the band is completely its own thing. It's not. It's got the sound sort of some similar elements, but I kind of like the fact that they didn't just go Power Trip Part Two.
yeah.
Because I feel like Power Trip was just its own amazing thing, and I feel like it would have cheapened, the band if they'd gone for something like that. But it is thrashy, it is really hardcore. There's a lot more to sort of unpack there, and it is its own thing. And I don't think you can sort of judge it and compare it to Power Trip, even though they share a member.
Mhm.
It is its own thing, but I like the fact that it's its own thing. It's you can tell a member of Power Trip's in it, but it's still its own contained sort of piece of music.
Yeah, I think I respect that because Power Trip was its own thing, and if the band members want to continue after Riley, I guess that's their discretion. I don't think that it's bad for a band to continue after a member's, passed away, as long as you do it
But
right.
again, it's
But
a separate
like,
band though.
yeah,
It's a completely
exactly.
separate.
So yeah, if you're gonna like, do something separate, you should definitely make it your own thing. So it's good that they've gone down that direction. So yeah, I'll definitely have to put that on my radar. So kicking it off with one of mine is Dark Throne, Astral Fortress. I've been a big fan of Dark Throne for a long time, and I think like out of all the black metal bands, sometimes I feel like Dark Throne, they're not afraid to try new things for a band that's been around since the 90s. And not only that, but a band that's pioneered the genre. And it seems like they just want to have fun with it sometimes. Like, they're not really constrained with this is how black metal should sound like. They like to take things in their own direction. Obviously, they went through the weird phase, which we touched on, and bands that changed and came
The
back.
yodeling.
Yeah, the yodeling phase of Dark Throne, which we don't talk about. I'm not a particularly big fan of that era. Obviously, I love the early albums, and even the first album was a bit more death metal-y. But yeah, since like Arctic Thunder, they've sort of gone for this, doomy black metal sound, which I think is actually probably one of my favorite eras of Dark Throne. It's got the punch, and there's a lot of elements of classic heavy metal in there. Like some of the riffing in there is reminiscent of like the new wave of British heavy metal. And he sounds like, I don't know, I read like an article that described the album perfectly. It's like gives you the feeling that you first got when you listen to heavy metal. It's a sort of like meat and potatoes riffs that just punch you in the face. There's lots of tempo changes, so it's not just like one dimensional, slow doomy throughout all the way. You've got some like fast blast beats in there, but you've also got some crunchy riffs, and also like it just captures the atmosphere of the cold, perfect for a nice winter warmer. So yeah, if you're in the festive moods, I definitely recommend this album. But yeah, the fucking geniuses. Like they've just managed to knock it out of the park each time, and I think for me this is one of the best Dark Thrones album I've listened to. I can honestly say, because they've just found their sound. Even if they're trying new things each time, they've always got the Dark Throne formula right.
Yeah, this one slipped under my radar. I didn't really listen to it. Yeah, I think like I was scared that we'd have like a really similar list, but we have actually got such a different list because you've still got some like legacy bands on there, whereas like a lot of mine it's just like kind of younger bands. I tend to sort of lean onto that now. Like I
Yeah, you
don't
got
really
some
listen
fresh
to the
stuff.
yeah, I don't really listen to the older guys anymore. I just kind of like just play it by ear. But yeah, it completely. I don't really keep up with most like releases from older bands now. I just kind of
Yeah,
like
I definitely
find
recommend
them.
checking it out for sure. Like, because I wouldn't say it's like your typical black metal either. Like, it's got a really fun element to this album. Like, you pop it on and it's just enjoyable to listen to because it's got some groove, it's got some nice riffage, excellent drumming, and to be honest, even the album cover is great. It's just him skiing in some fucking mountains. Like, it's just not typical black metal at all, but it just shows they just don't take themselves too incredibly seriously, but the musicianship is taken seriously and they know what they're doing. Like, you get the sense of this album that the fans of the music, they like playing what they're playing. They're not just playing it for the sake of keeping the band together or getting a check in. So yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, I would recommend.
yeah. I'll probably listen to it after this. But yeah, it completely slipped under my radar. So it's quite a few like Devin Townsend. Oh, spoiler. I'm not gonna carry on. Never mind.
Yeah,
No,
sure,
but
fucking you do your list, mate.
yeah,
Go on.
yeah. No, it's just slipped under my radar. If I'm honest.
See, that wouldn't even be in a giveaway if you didn't say "ooh" afterwards, because then it could be like, "Oh, you're just mentioning albums that came out," and I just fucking you've like double spoiled it. But it's
I
okay.
can't
I
help
think
it.
it's no lie that it was going to be on my list. But yeah,
Whilst
go on.
whilst I'm spoiling and shit as well, Marley and me, the dog die.
Don't talk
No,
about that. It still hurts.
yeah, no, it slipped under my radar. I think on my list, the next one is End It, Unpleasant Living. Now, fucking, I sent this to Dylan, and I remember him being like, the vocalist sounds like the guy from Cro-Mags. He does. So if you kind of like that sort of style of vocals, you will like End It. But everything about End It is great because they have that old school sound, but don't take themselves too seriously either as a hardcore band. One of their music videos is just them like in like disco outfits doing the hardcore songs in front of like an audience of old people in like a bingo house. That it's so good, but it also
Love
has
that.
a lot of like political meaning behind it that's important to say. And they do it so well with like having the just constantly punching with the like you can tell it's issues that genuinely piss off the band. and it really does feed into the music and make it better. Because you're like, yeah, that is fucking shit.
It's like a
Not only that,
protest, isn't it?
yeah, and
Like, yeah, he's fucking right.
yeah, no, it's true, and like it's just like I don't know, that sort of stuff resonates with me. Not only that, seeing them live is so good of an experience. I honestly don't think anyone would come out that show disappointed because the vocalist is one of the funniest fucking people I've ever seen like play live. And it's odd to say that for like a hardcore band, but it's genuinely true. They play amazingly. They're really tight, but then in between sort of like songs, the vocalist just does a bit of crowd interaction, but he could genuinely pass for a comedian with some of the shit he says. Like there was a bit where in the show where he paused, he went, "Did anyone see that like bread that was like floating in space?" And it's like everyone's like, "No," and he goes, "I don't know what it is, but when I was in Germany, that shit really like it really fucked me up. Like I had nightmares about that shit and everything, and like we're just ranting about this bit of bread. I know it don't, I can't do it justice, but it was so fucking funny. I like just hearing this guy just like kind of just go, I'm just gonna talk about a bit of bread for a minute, but he made it just really funny. But that being said, the music is really well made. Everything about this album's so fucking good. Hits every song hits. There's no songs that overstay the welcome. If it's a good, if you can tell they've gone through the. If it's a good 1 minute song, it's a minute song. If it's a good 3 minute song, it's a 3 minute song. There's nothing that overstays its welcome. It just
Yeah.
flows from one point to the next.
It's hitting the
And
sweet
just
pot,
hits, yeah,
sweet
it
spot
just
in each. Yeah.
it stays the right amount of time for each song.
It sounds good, yeah. Again, I know that you talked about them a lot, and it's one I might have like a song or two on my like songs, but I haven't really dived too deep into it. But I'm sure they'll be my kind of thing. And it's good as well that a hardcore band, not taking themselves too seriously, because I think the music's always great of hardcore, but sometimes I feel like they just need to loosen up a tiny bit. At least when it comes to like stage antics and stuff, throwing a bit of comedy, which is what by the sounds of it is what's good. And I like it when
Yeah,
bands do that.
honestly, I'd check out some of their sets online because it is so fucking funny. Some of the shit he comes out with. Like he was talking about how he went, I've got to give it to the Brits. They've got more rhythm than the fucking Germans and like shit like that. It just say funny shit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely check it out. Right. So next for me, something a little different. Obviously this is a very big band. That's certainly, I'd say, out of the bands that blew up in 2022, this is definitely one of them. So I want to pick Bad Omens, The Death of Peace of Mind. Now, it might not be everyone's cup of tea. They're not the heaviest band in the world, but like they just got the metalcore roots absolutely right. They've been around for a few years now, but I'd say like this year they've really found their feet. They mainly like blew up from TikTok as well, because just pretend for that's their biggest song and that like blew up on TikTok. But since then they've got like a wave of people listening to them, like they've got sold out shows, but they deserve it completely. I think like metalcore is one of those things that it dies, it comes back, it dies, it comes back, and like bands over the last 2 years, I'd say, have really brought it back up to the peak of where it was, and almost doing things just as good, if not better. And I think like Bad Omens has definitely got that formula. They've just got hits in this album. Like, every song is catchy, it's groovy, it's got the heaviness when it should be, and his vocals are just top notch. Like, he just hits the mark each time.
Yeah,
But
I was aware of Bad Omens before like this album because I remember I sent you a song by him ages ago, and like
yeah, it
this
was
again,
it's on our email, wasn't it? Because we got told about this band and then we forgot about
yeah,
them for a bit.
yeah, we forgot, and then they released this. I haven't again, shit. I, you're better at listening to albums than me, but I have not
Oh
listened
no.
to the album. But the stuff that I have heard from her is really good.
Yeah, no, they're just honestly an amazing band. It's great to see that, a new band in metalcore can come out and show people how it's done and just say like, we've got the chops for this. They've also got, and I think this is really important, and I feel like metalcore sometimes gets it better than other genres, is like having a very strong personality as a frontman, and he is exactly that. Like from his stage presence to the way that he conducts himself, he's just a very good showmanship, very good showmanship that he always brings. And every song is just a banger. This is the only way to describe it. It's got the catchiness, which sometimes I think can be lost in certain genres. But if you're wanting something to sing along to, if you're wanting something that's, plays around with like quite a lot of good electronic components to it as well, this is exactly it. It's what I imagine like a pop album would be if it was heavier. But like not to say that it loses any credibility of the songwriting, because the songwriting's great, the lyrics are great. Something that I think a lot of people can relate to during like a difficult time. And again, they're just blowing up, and I think they deserve all the credit that they're getting for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta give them props as well because I remember the songs that I have listened to from them. They aren't just your generic metalcore, and I really do enjoy that because it the thing is about metalcore, there's so many metalcore bands. There's so many. Like I think if you look at any metal subgenres, metalcore's probably got the most fucking bands. So there's such an oversaturation of people copying other bands or like just going for, well, this is what metalcore is, and I like how they are still sort of their own thing. I give props to that.
No, absolutely. There's too many copycats in the genre. Everyone wants to be architects, so everyone wants to Bring Me the Horizon. Like, I came upon Bad Omens as like, I can see the Bring Me the Horizon influence, but they're not Bring Me the Horizon. They're Bad Omens, which is what they get right. And I think his vocal style in particular, like Noah's vocal style, I think that is a big thing that separates them apart as well. He's got his own sort of sound, like the notes that he hit is just a bit different. But yeah, I'd highly recommend if you like metalcore, I'd check it out. If you want something, a little different, if you want something like, is a bit lighter, but it's fun to listen to, and I guarantee that you'll have Just Pretend stuck in your head if you listen to the album. So yeah, check it out.
Up next on my list, I've got Ingested Ashes Lie Still. Now I had to fucking bring this album up because Sean has been on the podcast twice now. He's a fucking great guy, and I had to show him some love. But this album's a fucking banger. It's just fucking
it's great.
relentless. Like Shadows in Time when that came out, I just could not stop listening to it. But there's so many, every single song from this album just slaps. Like it's got some amazing features on it as well.
Matt
And
Heafy, what a fucking song
yeah,
that is as well.
It's just like as well from like going from the last album where God's May Tread. You can see like I like the progression that we've seen with Ingested over the years from like when we first saw them to like how they are sound wise, not just as a band because that's also impressive to see, but just in general sound wise, it's so different
Yeah, they've
because
evolved
like
a lot.
they come out as this brutal slam sort of sound, and they still manage to keep that sound, but they add more to it and just keep adding more to it. And I feel like they have found this really unique sort of spot for them. Like they've got sort of proggy elements, they've got more atmospheric elements, but they're still fucking just got like this chainsaw crunch of fucking guitars that just slaps you in the face every time you listen to it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because like you don't see many like bands that start off as slam and then become like something, that is really. I'm trying to choose my words my words very carefully with this, but like, you a lot of slam bands, you wouldn't look back and say, wow, they're amazing musicians. Like this album is like, fucking god tier musicianship, but like that's never what slam's been about. Like, it is meant to be a bit silly and like, even though some of them are good players, I wouldn't say sometimes they release an album that like really wows me, like, this is a life changing album, but like to see, like you said, Ingested's progression from starting off as slam and then coming into, all these amazing albums that come after that, take some of the best parts of death metal, the best parts of slam, the best parts of prog, and making it into their own Ingested sort of world is incredible.
Definitely.
For sure.
And like I've had a sore throat for like 2 weeks. No, but like that's the thing. Like they just keep expanding, and I think we've found like this real such an interesting spot because I can't say oh yeah, like they sound like this, they sound like that, they sound like Ingested, and they've always sounded like
Exactly.
Ingested, but they found something that's like you can hear it. If someone plays you a riff, you're gonna be like, that's an Ingested riff.
Yeah, and the vocals too, like Slam King's vocals, fucking
Oh,
everything together.
Jason's, yeah,
Yeah,
I think last year or something like that, he posted about how he started going back to doing like vocal lessons and stuff like that because he wanted to improve his vocals, and you can definitely fucking hear him in this. Like you could hear the improvements, and it's amazing that he had like sort of like the humility and sort of, oh right, well I want to improve. I'm gonna go get lessons now. Like I'm and like the showing that he really wants to improve his vocals is just it's great to see it. You can tell he's passionate about it, and the entire album is just amazing. Like I've been listening to it non-stop. It's brutal. It's got every element you can sort of think of that you can enjoy.
yeah, for sure. I'm very proud to be fair, just like seeing how far they've come. But a testament to it, they're an amazing band and they deserve all the success that they're getting. This album is just clear of how far the band's come, and there's so many like interesting parts to it. Even just like the songs themselves are memorable. Like there's fun bits, there's serious bits, but like yeah, I just really enjoy the album, and I can't wait to see what they do next because every album just seems to top the last. So very
Oh,
impressed.
100%, 100%. I wish I was seeing them next week, but with it so close to Christmas, I spent too much on Christmas money on Christmas
Mm,
presents.
yeah, for real, man. So my next one, courtesy of Nathan's spoiler, is Devin Townsend Lightwork.
Hey, it's a preview.
The preview, yeah. Little trailer for you. But yeah, I love Devin Townsend. There's no secret I love Devin Townsend. It's like ever since I discovered him, he's always just been that little source of happiness. And he's amazing live too. I'm gonna get to go see him as well next year and his Lightwork performance. But yeah, this album came out. Obviously, had a lot to live up to because Empath was a masterpiece. The best thing about Devin Townsend is as soon as you play the album, you have no idea what you're in store for. There's so many things going on. It's orchestral. You know, it's really hard to describe his music. But it's fucking yeah, I love this album. And I think it came out at a time when I was like, going through some hard shit and I needed something that was like lighter. I love listening to death metal and stuff like that. It is my go-to day to day. But then you want something just a bit cheerful sometimes, something with positive vibes, and that's exactly what Devin brought with this. It's different to Empath in the sense that, Empath was quite crazy. It was a lot more progressive, a lot of like signature changes, a lot of different things going on. But I feel like with Lightwork, he did sort of hone it back a tiny bit. There was a lot of catchiness to it. A lot of the songs felt like they were a metal version of something that would come out in the 80s, like an 80s pop song. It's very lively, very positive, and it's just generally fun. And I think if you are going through a tough time, I think it's the great album to sort of lift your spirits a bit, and it certainly did for me.
Yeah, so you remember last year when when they played Bloodstock and I gave you
Yeah,
shit being like, I don't like Devin Townsend.
yeah.
Yeah, beginning of this year I actually changed my mind. I actually really got into him.
Actually,
Yeah,
you never
like
told me this.
beginning of this year, I did actually. I texted you saying I was completely wrong because I got into Strapping Young Lad massively. Was it Strapping Young Lad? I always get it mixed up with like another band.
Strapping Young Lad is his death metal projects from like the
Okay,
early
all right, good,
2000s.
good.
Nice.
Because for some reason, and I don't know why, I always get it mixed up with Of Mice and Men or something like that. I always get, yeah, don't, it's not even similar, but for some fucking reason, I
It's
always
so
go,
strange because they don't even
yeah,
sound similar,
exactly,
name
exactly.
wise or band wise.
It's like it's really, mate. It's weird. I in my for some reason my brain fires the same sort of signals for it. But that being said, I really like Devin Townsend now, and I'm really annoyed that I didn't keep. I don't get how you keep an eye on this stuff because I didn't know this album was even coming out until you put it on the fucking list. I was like, oh,
No,
Devin Townsend
I'm always
released a
like
new album.
I always check stuff out. Like when Banger do their like monthly albums that are coming out, they'll give like the big releases and the small ones. You know, that's what Blaine does, and then I'll just check Twitter and see what everyone's talking about. But yeah, I think like on Fridays is usually when like new music is released. So I'll see what's on my release radar. And I'll just like check for like I mean, if I'm following bands, they'll usually like market their albums for like a good half a year before it comes out. So I've got an idea of when that's coming. But yeah, I don't know. I like listening to all the new shit. But yeah, this album for me, it defied my expectations. You know, I think I like it as much as Empath. In fact, sometimes I like it a bit more. I think it's got that more, re-listenability because I think, Empath is an experience almost. And there's like a 20-minute song on there, which is amazing. But, when you're like walking about, if I was going to play like a 20-minute song, 25-minute song, I'm probably going to be like where I need to be by the time it's over. So you want to kind of
Yeah.
fit a few songs in. But I feel like this is really good. It's got some great groove to it. It's just a fucking sick album. Like I would highly recommend it. If you like Devin Townsend and just if you're, wanting something to cheer you up, it's just that album. It's like Disneyland in metal form.
Yeah, I feel like we both should have traded albums because there's a lot on your list. I didn't listen to that. Didn't listen. And I'm there like I'm trying to be like, yes, and like try to put more points with you, and like I'm there like,
That's the same. I mean, I haven't
yes,
listened to a lot of your bands to be fair, but I think that's the great thing about it is that, you know, if you're coming into this listening to this now, good chances you've got sort of your niche, you're like, oh, I'm the tech deaf guy, or oh, I'm the hardcore guy. But it might be a chance for you to check out some stuff that you wouldn't usually. And I think like it's fair to say I think we've got most grounds covered, except for
oh,
like
I
one or
feel
two
like
genres.
I feel like we've covered a lot of.
Yeah.
Mine's mostly hardcore. And on that subject, do you like? Do you know, I almost said vegan straight edge. They're not even vegan
Like
straight edge.
that.
I'm like, yeah, I like dogs. No, he's like, do you like straight edge hardcore? Yes. Do you like straight edge hardcore essentially being a supergroup comprised of members of Not Loose and on the drums, the brother
Yeah.
of the vocalist from Not Loose? I didn't hear that, Brad.
Yeah.
Then I've got the band for you, X Weapon X,
Boys.
with their with their Weapon X demo.
That's a
Now,
lot of X.
yeah, well, again, Brad, the X means straight edge. I'm sorry you're not with it.
So you're not cultured.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're not cultured. Yeah, but yeah, X means straight edge for anyone that doesn't know. But yeah, straight edge hardcore band, great fucking band. They released a demo this year. Again, like I mentioned, kind of a fucking super group. It's got Isaac from fucking Not Loose on the guitar. It's got Brian, the vocalist of Not Loose, on bass. It's got Brian's brother on drums. Can't remember the vocalist's name, and I can't remember what other band he was in, but he's in another band that's doing really well at the moment.
Wait, can I
Um,
interject for a second? You're saying that so this is a straight edge band with members of Not Loose. If a
yeah,
band's straight edge, does that mean like all band members have to be straight edge, or is this the message that they're trying to say is straight edge? Because I swear we saw a member or two in like Dry
yeah, but
Dock
it
from Not
wasn't.
Loose.
No, but it wasn't Isaac, and it wasn't Brian.
Ah,
So that's
okay.
the thing. Isaac and Brian. Well, I think most of Not Loose are straight edge, except for the drummer.
The black sheep of the band.
Yeah,
Do
no,
you reckon,
no,
do you
but
reckon they treat him like shit? Like, yeah, you fucking drinking pussy.
no, I don't think it's like that. I've watched interviews about where they talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, Brian and Isaac are straight edge. I'm pretty sure Brian's brother's also straight edge, and the vocalist is straight edge. Because if you're a straight edge band, you're gonna be coming out and being like, we are all straight edge. If you go, because I feel like if you're pushing the message to be straight edge, and like someone's there like going, yeah, but fuck it, I drink. Yeah, like, see, it's just like you kind of fucked it. But yeah, if you like straight edge hardcore, but in general, if you like hardcore in general, you're gonna like this demo. For it to be only a demo, mixing's amazing on it, and every fucking song just hits you in the face. It's so every single song is just so good. Like I said, it's got a lot of talent in the band. So like it'd be annoying if it wasn't. There's a lot of groove. There's a lot of heavy, like sort of chunky riffs, but it's mainly just all groove, man. Like it's genuinely like a very fucking groovy little demo.
Does it sound like Not Loose? Because obviously, like when you've got Brian's
No.
vocals, like does he try a different vocal technique? Because instantly when you hear
Well,
Brian's vocals, you're like that's not loose. That.
Brian's not the vocalist.
Oh,
Brian's on
yeah,
bass.
interesting. Okay, I was
So
gonna say
Brian,
because it would sound like Not Loose if it had Brian on vocals
yeah,
on it.
I feel like they couldn't have done it if Brian was on vocals. No, Brian's on bass. His
Okay,
brother's on drums. Isaac's on guitar, and then there's another vocalist. And mate, honestly, everything fucking gels really well. It flows really well. I feel like, by the way, put a penny in the chat every time I say it. It flows really well when I'm talking about an
it's
album.
okay. I've been a villain of saying some stuff a lot of times. Elements being one, but that's like a fan favorite from both of us. I'd say it's like our favorite word to use together. It's elements.
It's because it's
So
so
I'll try and switch up the components. I'm just like, this
it's
sounds
so
different.
malleable as a word. It's because it's like so fucking. Well, what could elements be? I could
Yeah,
be
it's
talking
fun to
about
say.
the mixing. I could be talking about the
About the fucking
drumming.
weather. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, I could be talking about the weather on the day they recorded it. You don't fucking know, and I don't either.
Exactly. So stop judging us.
Yeah, but yeah, no, everything. I can't. I can't hype it up anymore. It's a straight edge, hardcore band. That's kind of a super group. Very groovy. If you like that sort of stuff, you're gonna like it. If you like hardcore in general, you're gonna like it. It's a great demo. I can't wait to hear what the band comes out with next.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out because obviously I'm a big fan of the musicianship in Not Loose. So to see them try something else that's not Loose related would be quite interesting.
It
So
sound wise, it's completely different to Not Loose. That's what I'm gonna say. If you're a Not Loose fan, you might but you don't necessarily listen to like a lot of hardcore. You might struggle to listen to this album and enjoy it, mainly because it's not what I feel like a lot of people would expect from members of Not Loose, because Not Loose is pretty metalcore. At
I
this
was gonna
point,
say, yeah, like I think they started out with more hardcore roots, but like nowadays I'd say the sort of that middle ground thing that's quite popular at the moment. So yeah, I'm interested to check it out because again, I got into Not Loose when they sounded in the sort of metalcore, hardcore sort of sound. So to see them go back, and it sounds like they've gone more for what influenced them to start the band as opposed to what they sound like now. So yeah,
definitely from hearing about it, I think it's like a bit of a passion project for him.
that's good. So my one next. God, help me with this fucking say this, but so it's Vanaheim and Valoran Vahal. Yeah. So we've actually
Someone
interviewed
out there has
Vanaheim.
been like he's
Lovely
butchered
guys.
that.
Yeah. It feels worse that we've interviewed them. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. But at least your album's on my fucking list, so come on, throw me a bone here. But yeah, I've been a massive fan of Vanaheim ever since I saw them at HRH last year. They just put on an amazing performance. I mean, any sort of performance when they start coming on with Mongolian throat singing as like the intro is going to impress me. I love anything like, I know Nathan's a bit iffy about folk metal, but like, I think this is a very
Don't be outing
interesting.
me like this. I don't want.
No,
then again,
everyone's. You're not
out of-
shitting on
out of
folk
fa-
metal. You just don't like it, which is
Yeah,
fair.
I mean, out of the fan bases, I'm not scared. I'm not too scared to piss off the folk metal crowd because you're really nice people.
Yeah, they're
And
like the happiest
attack me.
subgenre.
Yeah, you won't attack me for my opinion. You'd be like, okay, fair enough. You know, you're a rational thinking person. However, the black metal crowd,
We
fucking
love you.
terrified. Yeah, I'm fucking terrified.
Nothing
of
bad
you.
to say about black
Yeah,
metal.
nothing bad to say. Yeah,
Yeah, folk
nothing
metal's
bad.
fine. They're just there in the taverns drinking ale or something. They're pretty happy having a little jig. But yeah, I think it's not often that I put like a folk metal album on the list. Like, I like to listen to it and I think it's fun, but sometimes, I've got to be in the right mood for it. But I feel like with Vanaheim's album, it's such a journey that you go on from the start to finish. Like sometimes you feel like you're in Skyrim and then you're in the next minute you're in a tavern in Witcher. Like obviously it's probably not what they're singing about, but it's what you sort of relate with the music. And I think it's the perfect album if you want to escape from life for like an hour, put this on, like, you feel like you listen to like the video game screen of some fucking war game. And it's just amazing. Like, every instrument that they play is just played so well. And just, they'll go on for like 7 minutes and, everything just flows really well. It's hard to describe, but it's just amazing. I love it. I think if you like folk metal, then this should really blow you away. You know, it does have more sort of serious vibes than, you know, say something like Corpaclani. But yeah, they're amazing musicians. Like I can see, once I saw them at HRH Vikings, like they played another set about an hour later, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm seeing them again because I just couldn't get enough of it. You know, they don't take themselves too seriously when they're on stage, and like even when we spoke to them, they're just, you know, nice, genuine, humble guys, and I think that comes across in the music. Like they play it for the fun. You know, they're not playing to, you know, become rich or anything. They play it because they're generally passionate about making good folk metal, and you can definitely see that through this album. You know, it's probably one of the best folk metal albums I've listened to, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like first one out your list I've fucking listened to.
You've
So
listened to it?
yeah, because I'm
Have you?
pretty sure I'm pretty sure it came out before we interviewed him.
It came out like a week after, so it's
Oh
very
yeah, okay,
close. Yeah.
okay, okay. I think I did still listen to it though. Yeah, no, I really like it. And that's that's a big compliment for me because I don't normally like folk metal.
That's an even
I
bigger
am not.
compliment because Nathan doesn't even like folk and he enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't normally like folk metal. I say normally. Most of the time, I've never really liked it. But I did enjoy this album. I feel like it's not just your standard folk metal. I feel like as well, it's just kind of what it like Brad said, it does kind of take you on a journey. Very atmospheric to listen to. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the problems that I have with folk metal is it can be very, very sort of what's the word? Like kind of cliche, like and the dragon climbed up the mountain, and it's like okay. But this one isn't that. The music's actually really well written. And again, atmospheric.
Yeah. To compare the craft to, you know, their previous release, it's just milestone ahead. You know, they spent so long making this album, like, you know, through lockdown, through, you know, before that. And you can tell, like, you know, nothing was like put in there that shouldn't be there. You know, everything that I imagine was cut and put on the drawing board was for the right reasons. You know, because everything is just pure gold from start to finish. Like, amazing album. So yeah, highly recommend.
I would recommend as well, and you should definitely listen because if I'm recommending a metal album, it's good.
Yeah, and it's got like, you know, it's got some death metal influence as well. You know, there's some like harsh vocals that really complement the music as well. And I think, you know, there's the sort of duet of all the vocal styles is immense. So, you know, but I wouldn't say write it off if you're not typically interested in that genre, because there'll be something for you, I imagine.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm just really hoping that us saying yeah, folk metal guys are nice. Just hoping we don't get like the one psychopath folk metal like fan that's like listening, going, he's like,
Just
"Fuck
the only one.
you." Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like, "Hey,
Is
you
it?
fucking
Yeah.
cunt!" Like, what the fuck you saying about folk metal? I live for that shit.
I'm unsubscribing.
Yeah, I'm unsubscribing and reporting you to YouTube. You fucking dick.
What's next for
On
you then?
my next one for me is Fit for an Autopsy or What the Future Holds. Now, this is something I have to completely retract my previous statement on because I remember when it
Oh
came
yeah, because
out.
we reviewed it, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember when it came out. I was there like, eh. I was like, I was there. I literally was like, it just kind of feels like a part two. They weren't really. I was completely wrong. On a second listen, I enjoyed it. This is why me and Brad don't do many reviews because we end up going back on our word a lot of the fucking
Yeah.
time.
Fit for
Like
an Autopsy is a grower.
yeah, it grew on me massively. Far from Heaven is a fucking
F in the
banger.
chat for our growers out there.
Yeah. No, but Far From Heaven's a fucking banger. That's probably the best track from the entire album. I listened to it all the fucking time. And I think that's the one I gave it the most shit on when we reviewed it. So I completely ate my fucking words here. Don't if you watch that review, don't fucking listen to a single word I said because there was actually a lot. One critique I gave it at the time was that I felt like they didn't add enough to it to stand out from See a Tragic Beast. On a second listen, there's a lot of shit there that I just didn't pick up on. It's its own thing. It's not See a Tragic Beast Part 2, it's expanded on those elements and it's just made it better. Like it's not just completely changed it again. It's taken what it's got and just made it better. Because I listened, so this is the thing. I listened to See a Tragic Beast in full, and then I listened to this. Jesus Christ, my throat's dry. And then I listened to this, and what I found was I'd like pushed back my memories of Sea of Tragic Beast when I did that review. And more like just kind of like remembering what it sounded like. But I think I remember my experience of listening to it compared for the first time compared to that. On a second listen, comparing the two, you can really hear that they've just refined the elements in it. It's so fucking good. And that's why it's on my list.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, to be honest. Like, I always held Sea of Tragic Beasts in the highest regard. And I mean, so it should be. It's a fucking masterpiece. But like, listening to this album, this would have been my shout out, actually, to be honest. But what the future holds is an evolution of Sea of Tragic Beasts. And I think a lot of things that they did in that were, like you said, refined in this album. Like, they did this so much better. Like, it's the improved version almost, like the 2.0. But there's other stuff in there as well that wasn't included in that. I think there's a lot more darker atmospheres going on in this, to be honest. And like, even the lyrical content is the most like mature and best songwriting that I've seen of Fit for an Autopsy. I think there was like one lyric that still stuck with me I think it's in Pandora, and it's like it's always too many graves, not enough shovels. And I'm like, that is a fucking amazing line. And it's just like, the whole album just being about like humanity and just how we're driving our own destruction. Like, I think it's very thought-provoking, especially for like a band that started out in deathcore. I mean, deathcore can be very thought-provoking, but sometimes not. So I think, it shows that how much that they've not only evolved from the last album, but how they've evolved from not just being a deathcore band anymore, but their own thing. Treading the lines between, they've got the feet in death metal, they've got the feet in deathcore, but overall, I think especially like the even the vocals of this album by Joe is his best performance yet. Like, he reaches some levels in this that are incredible. So yeah, I'd say it's the best Fit for an Autopsy album. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'll admit, I watched the review as well, and I'm a fucking dick.
That's what I mean. That's good though, because I mean, some albums, I think sometimes the best albums are the one that you listen to on first listen. It was good, but not the best. But then, like, you really take time to feed yourself into it, and it becomes one of your favorites. Because I don't think
100%.
not every album should be like easy to consume like that much. And I think that's why this album was great.
Like, over the year, it grew on me massively, and I was like, more I listened to it, I'm like, yeah, this is actually a really fucking good album.
Yeah, stuff like fucking Higher Level of Hate, like the riffing on that song, incredible. Yeah, it's really technical playing for sure.
Mate, it's fucking, honestly, it's a banger. Right, what's next for you?
But yeah, so my next one on the list is a band that certainly blew up this year, and rightly so. It is Undeaf. It's time, ... to rise from the grave. This album is fucking phenomenal. Like, if you want just the fucking meat and potatoes, it's great fucking death metal, and Death is the one for that. Like, when I listen to this album, I'm like, this could be like the unforgotten classic from the 90s that never came out. Like, it's up there with some of the greats. Like, everything, like, from the musicianship, it doesn't try to be anything else, but it's like Undeaf's version of death metal. It's not to say that they copy anything from the 90s. They've got their own style. But even like the production, it's so raw. It's not like overproduced, oversaturated. It's exactly how it should be for this kind of release. And it's also a really thing I appreciate is that they've got some very catchy choruses in there, which obviously isn't always the case. But like, I've constantly got like Rise from the Grave stuck in my head and Fiend for Corpses, like the fucking riff playing. the vocals, the drumming, everything's just perfect. And I even enjoy like the themes around it. It's just stuff like zombies and graves and all the sort of stuff that is fun to talk about in death metal. The thing that made it big, and I think that's what's great to see death metal bands come out now that can reach a nice level of popularity that are just playing straight fucking death metal. So yeah, I love Undeath, and I think anyone, if you've not been on your radar for some reason, then get it on there because it's perfect.
Oh yeah. Honestly, we are in the best time for death metal at the moment.
I agree.
Like, yeah, guys, the 90s were great, but honestly, the shit that's getting put out now, I like someone's gonna crucify me for this shit. The shit that's getting put now is better.
I agree.
It's
Yeah,
it's just better. It's fucking better in every way. Like we've got because we've got bands that grew up on that 90s shit with the appreciation of on it. It's still fucking true to the 90s, but then grew up in an era where groove and shit like that. Like if you listen to them in the 90s, if you listen to death metal in the 90s, well, if you was a kid a couple of years ago, like Jesus Christ, if you was a kid a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have necessarily gone straight into death metal. You wouldn't have been around during the 90s sort of stuff, but you would have probably been around for the new metal craze, where you're all groovy and all that shit. And then as you got older, you started listening to more obscure shit. You started listening to 90s death metal. Now, you grow up, you want to start a death metal band, but you still really love fucking groovy shit. So you put your groove in your fucking death metal.
sounds like a
Makes it a
baking
million times
recipe.
fucking better. Honestly.
Exactly. No, yeah, I completely agree, and I think it is the best time for death metal. And these bands coming out, you might say, oh, how can they compare to these greats in the 90s? I'm like, because they spent all this time listening to them. For example, like it's when you make a product, like the PS1 came out, for example, and then now you've got the PS5. You look at what's been done, you say, this is great, this is great. I'd put this in and this in. And then that's how you get bands today that are just, you know, what the 90s bands were, but even better to some degree. Like, they might not be reinventing anything new, but that doesn't matter because the albums that they're producing are perfect. Exactly what death metal should be.
Yeah. And
And
you
this,
know what it is?
yeah,
It's also taking a step back. Because after the 90s, death metal was so overproduced, it was ridiculous. So they've stripped all the bad aspects that were affecting death metal. And now they're in this little sweet spot where it's perfect. Right, and there's so many good bands coming out.
yeah. It's this album is monstrous. It's large, it's raw, and I think sometimes you don't want that, you know, 5-star dish. Going back to the food analogies again, you want something that hits the spot, and sometimes the less ingredients, the better. And I think they've just played it perfectly with this, and that's why they're getting so much recognition, and they deserve every single bit of it.
Headbangers.